you find it all right?
Yeah, no problems at all. Your directions were spot on. Just slightly confused when I come onto the road to begin with, because you've got the bit on the main road, haven't you? And then it comes into the. But yeah, no problems at all. There's one more box. No, I mean I can actually take that off and drop that down, so that will go under there if that works for you. That you've got it so high is in a factory environment.
Yeah.
That should pass the cable through the tube.
Yeah.
Into overhead electrics.
Right, got you.
So it's obviously so it doesn't become a trip hazard.
Yeah.
In a home environment, you don't really need the top.
No, I don't think that should. No, I think to go under there it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can push that the way when I'm not using it. So it might be a very good idea actually.
As long as the thread comes above the top of the machine, which it will. Recap. Industrial machines sit into a tank vial. The reasoning for that is twofold. Number one, obviously they're designed to be used literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Domestic's only designed really to be used 2 to 4 hours a day, and they run at a slow speed. So pretty much anything that's kind of 1,000 stitches and above in terms of speed, it would need to self-lubricate, otherwise parts would wear out or it would seize up. So you can run this as little or as slow or as fast as you want, so don't worry about that. But thank you. So the oil itself just pours into the sump. We've got a low mark and a high mark. So I recommend changing it about every 5 years. I mean, I've had customers who haven't changed it for 20 or even 30 years, and they're very forgiving, but it's better to keep things in tip top. You won't need to check the oil, but if you decided that kind of giving it a bit of a clean and a bit of TLC, if you do tip the machine back, they are heavy, about 38 kilograms I think it is. So use your upper body weight. I'd always put your foot on the stands just in case you haven't locked the wheel so it doesn't scoot. Then you just lean into the machine and push it away. Okay, if I just start with the threading sequence itself again. So at the moment we're going to be coming from right to left on these two individual items. So if we come through the first one, which is the pre-tension guide, right to left through the first hole. We can miss the second one out, that's not too critical. Then come through the M1 right to left. Same with the second one, right to left, come back, and then right to left. But the main part, or the critical part with the machine, is the tension unit, and that's made up of a number of different factors, including 2 large discs and a spring. So when we thread this unit, it's preferable to have the presser foot in a nut position, and you can do that with a lever or your knee. So hold the thread top and bottom, bring it between the 2 large discs, pull it in as far as it goes, bring the thread up till 12 o'clock, bring it back down to 6 o'clock, it will go over the spring, under the guide, we now come to the take up lever, and again we're coming from right to left, and then we follow down. There's 3 additional guides to the needle, so we've got 1, 2, 3, so there's one just above the needle, and then we thread the needle itself. Now on an industrial, this type of machine, we thread the needle from left to right. It's in the same direction that the bobbin case goes. So straight into the needle, bring that through. If you now turn the balance wheel, always turn it forward 1 full revolution, and that'll bring up the bobbin thread for us. Right, so we're now ready to sew. I'll just grab a little piece of fabric. So at the moment we've got our presser foot in the up position, so I'll need that in a down position to sew. So if you just bring the lever back down, and from here onwards most people would just utilise the knee unit, and the knee goes a lot higher than the lever as well. So place your fabric in, release, so that's now clamped the fabric. The speed's variable from the pedal, so the harder we press the faster it go, but what we can do is change the speed from the minus and the plus. So the lower the number, the slower the speed. So 200 will be its slowest. So it doesn't matter how hard I press the pedal now, it won't go any faster than 200 stitches a minute. That's right, I just need to rethread the needle. And 200 is a nice speed to start off, but it's also good if you're doing things like top stitching. Also you've got more control on the fabric. It will go up to a maximum of 2,800 stitches a minute on this model, which is extremely fast. If you've got a long length of fabric to do, such as a heavy drape or something, then great, you'll get it done a lot quicker, but for general bag making that would be too fast. Right, so that's now set on 200 a minute. So to increase that, if we just stop, we come back to the plus and minus, the higher the number, the faster the speed. So 800, 7-stroke 800 is a nice speed to start us off with. So we've still got control from the pedal, so just touch it a little bit, it goes nice and slow. The harder we press, the faster it will go. But if you wanted to, like I say, we can increase that all the way up to 2,800. And that really would be more for kind of mass production, kind of for a factory environment. So we've still got complete control, but you've now got supersonic speed. So I'm just going to pop that back to, I'll start us off on say 500. And it's on a loop, so if you go to 2,800, you haven't got to go all the way back, you can just go above and it will come to the number. A couple of little features we got on this one, now on the revised version, is the stop button. So, especially when somebody's new to sewing, or new to an industrial machine, it's always preferable to have the machine off when you're threading it, changing the needle, putting it in the bobbin case, just in case your chair knocks the pedal and it moves. So on this model now we've got an additional stop button, so select stop, so that's highlighted, so that eliminates the pedal, so we're not going to cause any issues. But obviously when I come to sew, I just need to take that part off. Plus and minus for your speed. The other option we've got is the needle stopper. So at the moment the machine sets, so whenever we stop, the needle stops in an up position, so our fabric's always ready to take out. But especially with bag making, when you come into D-rings and piping and such like, it's nice to have the needle in a down position so we can pivot the work. We've got 3 options with that. We can go to the conventional way and turn the wheel by hand, but we're actually making work for ourselves. This machine is obviously designed for a purpose, to make life easier. So we've got 2 little blue buttons. The one at the top is to decrease or increase the brightness of the light, and the lower one is the needle position. So if we select that once and release, that will pop the needle down for us. To bring the needle back up, we've got 3 options. Turn the wheel, press the button, or if the needle is in a down position, as soon as we restart, the needle comes back up. The other option that we've got, if we come to the display unit, the control panel, the top right hand button enables us to select needle down all the time or needle up all the time. So if I select needle down, that little icon now has gone down. So each and every time the needle will stay in a down position. Okay. And again, to bring it up, button, wheel, or alternatively, when we're on that mode, if we press the pedal backwards, the needle comes up for us. So we don't have to do anything with the hands. We can just obviously utilise those on the fabric. Now I'm going to pop that back in its up position. The other controls, or the icons that we've got on the display panel, predominantly for an engineer, so we can alter the speed, how the machine reacts. So for yourself, you've pretty much got needle up and down, lock on or off, speed low or high. The P, the S and the left and right buttons are for an engineer mode. So if I go into program, that's now in the engineer's mode, so I can change parameters for the machine, which you won't need to do. But life being life, people go into YouTube, and a friend of a friend who's got a dog says if you do this that will happen. In reality it doesn't, but if you were to confuse the machine or put the wrong parameters in, you don't have to panic. Just literally press and hold reset 3 seconds, and that goes back to factory settings. So the factory settings will stop with the needle down, so I'm just going to pop that back up. Factory settings will also give you a high speed, so I'm just going to pop that down to a more sensible speed. And that's now ready to go. So left and right, P and S, ignore completely. You won't need to touch those. So the final 3 little areas to cover will be reverse. As long as the reverse is held down, the machine will get into reverse mode and release. You normally just do a little bit at the beginning and the end, just like a domestic, to lock the stitch. Now got a stitch length, so it'll go up to a maximum of 8, which is quite good for a top stitch. So to change this, first of all we need to release the push button, because if we go at maximum speed, what you don't want to do is the top stitch to vary in size, so that actually locks the dial. So we release the lock, then change this stitch length. So I'm on number 8 now, which is quite a large stitch, which is predominantly for top stitching. And obviously the smaller the number, the smaller the stitch. For bag making, I would generally recommend about 5, 4.5 to 5. Now when we're coming down, you can turn the dial, but there is resistance because we're pushing against the lever and the feed. So if you pop your reverse down, that releases the mechanism and it's easy for you to turn. So rather than struggling, just pop that down, and that's now back to normal. Your other control, just to mention, is your tension control, which is located there. Now they don't have numbers like a domestic because it's designed to take a much wider variable range of the threads. Where it's set at the moment is its most common setting, and you very rarely need to touch that, and I've tweaked it slightly to make sure it's all suitable for polycotton rather than the thicker threads. 2 times you possibly need to adjust. Number 1, if you're finding that the top stitch is nice and tight, as should be the bottom, but if you're getting any birds nesting or spidering effect on the underside, tighten it slightly. You only literally need to do it a fraction, as it's righty-tighty, clockwise, yeah, so righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you find that the thread's breaking, if you're using things like bonded nylon, that's rare, but if it was breaking, turn it to the left. So in essence what we're doing, the discs are increasing pressure or releasing pressure, but where we are at the moment is a nice happy medium. Okay. The type of fabrics you put through now are obviously down to yourself. I mean, obviously it's designed for the more heavier weight fabrics, so kind of denim and above. You could do kind of a heavier cotton. You wouldn't be able to use kind of the very fine shirt cotton. That would be too fine.
What does it do to the machine? What would it do to the fabric?
Okay, so
If I used
okay, so you have got its limitations, but the first thing, if the machine's not set up correctly, you will get tightness in the fabric or pucker and distort the fabric. So you can compensate for that. So the first thing to do would be to put in a finer needle. So this is quite a chunky one, amount to size 21, which is for vinyls, leathers and upholstery work. If you're doing a very fine quilted item, about size 14 stroke 90, you can't know, the needle has got to be that. So this particular type of machine uses a system called 135 cross 17 or DB cross 17. Down a bit. There we go. So DB cross 17, that's specifically for this type of machine. The needles themselves, you can get them in a variety of sizes, so the size is no different to a domestic. I think you start at about size 8 and go up to about size 24. Now the needles themselves are completely round, and that's to give you maximum strength from the needle so you don't get any distortion. But the important thing is when we fit the needle, you've got a lung groove. Just over half the length of the needle. That lung groove has to face outside, it has to face to the left of the machine. As a quick reference, you can put your nail in just to check. If you fit the needle any other way, you'll get misstitching or thread breakage, so that's the first thing to do. But the question you asked about your lighter weight fabrics, so put in a finer needle, i.e. size 90 stroke 14. This is set now for polycotton, so you shouldn't need to touch the tension, but you can actually release the pressure a little bit from there. So if we release the locking nut, turn that to the left, just turn that a couple of turns. Don't continue to turn it because it will all come apart. Then lock. And that releases the amount of pressure there is of the foot onto the fabric. And the third and final thing would be to come to a slightly smaller stitch. If you're on size 8, it would just 2.5. Yeah, that would be perfect. So I'll just pop that back to normal. If you come into your thicker fabrics, so if I was now to double that and put it again, as long as you can get that under the machine, and away we go. So for that kind of thickness, you'd want a minimum of size 21 needle. So I didn't actually count how many ply we got there. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 if my maths is correct. So I haven't had to make any adjustments to the machine. It's just ready to rock and roll. The most important thing for this type of machine, because obviously everything's heavy duty, the motor's powerful, you've got thick needles. Like I say, if you are making any adjustments, i.e. changing needles, tensions, etc., put it onto a lock so it doesn't rotate. If you've got the model without the lock, turn the machine off. Okay. Now you've got a separate switch for the light, and like I said, that's the needle that will pull down. Got a little QR code at the side, so if you've got a fancy camera that connects to the internet, hover it over with your camera and it'll take you directly to Jack's website. Two final things again with safety. Number one, you've got a little finger guard on that's designed to stop your fingers going through to the needle. Doesn't stop you being stupid, but it's there as a good first guard. And when you're finished, off. It takes 8 to 10 seconds to power down, so the light will go off, then immediately after the screen will say off and it will go off. Okay. The final thing just to mention, the most common mistake is if somebody's winding a bobbin on its own and they've left the machine threaded, that thread's got absolutely nowhere to go other than around the shuttle. So if that wraps around the shuttle, you can jam the machine, as you would do on any other domestic or industrial machine. So if that was the case, we'd tip the machine back. If you've got any bits that you can see, snip away. Put the machine back down. If it is still locked, the machine will come up with an error code, just to tell you that there's an issue, because it will automatically go into error code. Just hold the wheel tight, keep going backwards, forwards, and that will release that for you. So you've just got a little drawer there to pop our little bits and pieces in. So the instructions are basic. So the instructions are fairly basic. It's in Chinese and English, but YouTube's, there's an abundance of different videos. Not many in English. Most of them are in Russian, Spanish, or Urdu, but you can generally work through that. Spare needles and bobbins. There's a little cover in there as well. Little pair of snips. And we've got a small, medium and large screwdrivers. I think that's all down to you now. Thank you. Yeah, certainly. The wire there, so thank you. I don't think you couldn't have measured that any better, could you? So once you're in a position that you're happy with, lock your wheels. I tend to move the casters in so we don't catch our ankles. But that fits nicely there, doesn't it? That's all good to go. I'm Tony Nutt from S Nutt Sewing Machines in Birmingham. Phone number 0121 327 2828. Many thanks.